Okay. All right. Last time we went over the the atlas. So you have the atlas and axis, C1 and C2, those special vertebrae. We have our quote unquote generic or
Miss Sasha, are you on the radio?
I hope not. Which is C3 through C7. And then we dipped our toe into thoracic vertebrae. We mainly went over this anterior view. So now let's go over this lateral view. So in this lateral view, where do I want to start? Let's do random. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12. Random. 12. 4, 5, 6, 3. Can you tell me what this structure is right here? The body, thank you. It's the body of the vertebrae. Isabel, can you tell me what structure this is on the vertebrae? The spinous process. Teo, can you tell me? So this is a portion right here. I've categorized it. Oh, no. Let's choose a completely different color. There we go. This portion right here that I just highlighted, what is that structure? Yep, the superior articular facet. Chloe, can you tell me what this arrow where this structure is right there, what that might be pointing to? Interior? Inferior articular facet, thank you. Okay, and then the rest of the facet joints that we see here are costal facets. So we have 3 of them that we can see in this image. The first one I'm going to go right here, that circle. Mia, you want to tell me what process this facet is on? Right, the transverse process. So if it's on the transverse process, it's going to be named very aptly, anatomist did us a solid, is the costal facet on the transverse process. process. We got Parker. We're moving on to other. Gosh, it's really just not good today. So this facet joint right here, can you see that? Well, then let's undo it then. That's red, it's orange. There we go. That should be different enough. There you go. This facet right here, the superior costal facet. And then Grant, the facet joint that is kind of directly below that right here, what might that be labeled as? There we go. Context clues, right? We remember that from what, grade school? Inferior costal facet. All right, so those are the structures that we can see on here. Just a Grant. Teo again, can you tell me which side on this left image, because I forgot to do it before we started labeling things. Give me some direction. Let's take the right side of this image is going to be what? Anatomical directional terms. Lateral. So we have, see on this right-hand side, we have lateral and midline and lateral, so that we have medial and lateral on this right-hand image. We can't necessarily see medial and lateral on this left-hand image because we're taking it from, so this one is right from the, on the right-hand side, this is a picture essentially taken from the front. And this is this on the left-hand side is a picture taken from the side. Caudal, you can use, I don't use caudal. Well, no, probably spine surgeons will use caudal, but we're just talking, that refers to cranial and caudal is going to be up and down. So, no, let's undo that. Caudal is going to be down. Cranial is going to be up. So then what is going to the right on this image? Anterior? What's the opposite of anterior? Posterior. There you go. We got there eventually. We have posterior, and then anterior is going to this left-hand side. Anterior. Cranial caudal. You can also get, I like much better. Most anatomists like better. Superior up and inferior or inferior down. All right. Any questions on this lateral view? Okay. All right, so now we're looking straight down. We're looking from a superior view, straight down onto the vertebrae. Michaela, you're going to tell us what is this line that I'm drawing? midline, or our reference point for medial. Good. Mia, you're getting hit again. Midline. Give me anterior and posterior on this image. So I'm drawing two arrows. Which one is anterior? Which one is posterior? Switch those around. Why do I want to switch those around? Let me rephrase that question. What cues you into what part of this is anterior and posterior? Tim, what cues you into what is anterior and posterior on this image? What process is that at the top? And the spinous process is posterior, you say? That's one way to do it. Yes. Good job, Tim. Another way that I find might be a little bit easier, a little bit more reliable, is to use the body. The body is always going to be on that anterior portion. Spinous process is always going to be posterior. And so if you can identify both of those, you can typically always orient yourself to anterior and posterior. Midline, lateral, anterior, posterior. All right, we got our orientation, and Tim very kindly gave us this orientation. And this right here is going to be spinous process. Okay, so here's a spinous process. Kimmy, you are going to tell me what is this structure right here? Lamina. Why? So I heard you go back and forth between vertebral arch and lamina. How do you distinguish between the vertebral arch and lamina? Lamina is the bone, right? And the vertebral arch is just that kind of whole arch. It's not a particular structure. It's more so the general area. Good. Kayla, can you tell me what this area is right here on both sides? The pedicle, thank you. Pedicle. Come on, give me a different number. Tim, we're coming back to you. Tell me what structure. Oh. What structure is this right here that I just highlighted? Very good. costal facet on the transverse process. All right. There you go. Chloe, can you tell me what this is that I just highlighted? You don't know? So we have, say again? Some arch. Good. So if it's an arch, what might we name it as? The vertebral arch. There we go. You got there. We will have it come out this way. Vertebral arch. Andrew, can you tell me what this structure is right here that I'm highlighting? Transverse process. All right. Now, I'm going to take this one and doing this structure right here. This is the body. And we got the lamina, pedicle. Now, Kimmy, can you tell me what these little facets are right here? Superior costal facets. Thank you. And Michaela, can you tell me what these facets are kind of peeking out right behind up in there? Yep, the inferior costal facets. All right, last one. Inferior is the yellow, yes. You can see they're more lateral and they're a little bit more hidden. So if we zoom in right here, you can see very slightly that white cartilage peeking out in the image right there. And so that's where that facet is going to be. And you can see more bone matrix right behind it, or more medial. All right, and okay. Isabel, last one for these structures right here. Superior articular facets. Very good. All right. Any questions on any of the images that we have done today? No, there is not a transverse foramen on the thoracic vertebrae. Any other questions on thoracic vertebrae? Isabel? Yeah? Is the transverse foramen on all cervical vertebrae? That's a good question. Hold on. So as I'm going to answer your question in a roundabout way. As you get further caudally, so towards your thoracic and lumbar spine in the cervical spine, the foramina get smaller. So they start out relatively large in the first cervical vertebrae, quite prominent in the second cervical vertebrae, third, so on and so forth. They continually get smaller, and by the time they get to the seventh cervical vertebrae, they're so small that they, and you know, as you can probably see on the vertebrae that are in the back, the cervical vertebrae, by the time you get to the seventh one, it's almost a thoracic vertebrae, but it's close enough to a cervical vertebrae that that's how anatomists have categorized it. And so then really the first thoracic vertebrae is the one that kind of looks most like the rest of the thoracic vertebrae. Yeah, so no, these are, like I said, these are generic, general things for the different sections of the spine. Any other questions on cervical or thoracic vertebrae? All right, we're going to move on. Here's a nicely labeled image if you want to look at that one. Did I not? Did I? So, in keeping with the costal facets, here's a different labeled image where you can see kind of the vertebrae together and how they articulate. And those costal facets, you can see that when we quote unquote attach these, attach the ribs, they articulate with all three facets, but not on just one vertebrae. So what you can see here, you can see, hello, palm rejection. You can see this rib is articulating first with that facet on the transverse process. Then it is articulating with the inferior articular facet on the more superior rib, or more superior spinal segment. And then it is also articulating with the superior, excuse me, facet of the lower vertebrae. So let's say this was T4 and T5, okay? So this rib right here is going to be articulating with the superior articular facet off T5, the inferior articular facet off of T4, and the transverse and the costal facet on the fifth thoracic vertebrae. So it's T5 as an example. So there are a couple of different structures that you need to know on the ribs. We can first label our directions. So we'll start with Tim again. Tim, do you want to tell me where anterior is on this image? Bottom. So this is anterior. And that would make this posterior. And then we're going to label and orient ourselves. Here is that midline. And then we have lateral. And Parker, you want to tell me on this image which side is the left and which side is the right of this patient? There we go. Right and left. Yes, I constantly have to think and turn my head in space. So then Grant, can you tell me what, start there. This structure is right here. Help us orient. Vertebral foramen. And Andrew, can you tell me what this structure is? The vertebral body, yes. And then we have another familiar structure. Right here. Teo, can you tell me what this structure is? Yes, this blue one off to the right that I just highlighted. Transverse process. Transverse process. And then Bree, can you tell me what this structure is right here? The spinous process. And all right. So those are all, we have oriented ourselves. We have the major structures on the vertebrae to orient ourselves. We've labeled directions. So now, Mia, I want you to take a stab at what structure on the rib this is right here. Yep, it's the body of rib. And how do you know that's the body? Yeah, it's kind of like a long bone. It's the middle, the shaft, so it's going to be the body of that bone. We also have, I'm going to erase this right here, and we're going to extend. this line out here. And this is this one. There we go. All right. We also have a head and a neck on the rib. So here's that body over here as well. So if we were making a guess, Kayla, you're going to tell me what this red one is right there. Yep, that's going to be the head of the rib. Gentlemen, focus back up here, please. So we've made a guess at the head. So now we have this structure right here. Chloe, you want to guess on what that is? This orange one right here. It's right. There we go. That's the neck. And we also have, we also need a name for the place where the rib articulates with that transverse process. And that's going to be the costal tubercle. And that is going to be, right here. That costal tubercle articulating with that transverse process. Excuse me. And then here, let's put, yep, fine. So then the last structure that we're gonna, oh no, not the last structure, almost the last structure. One of the last structures that we're labeling. We have to think about the sharp turn that the ribs have to make. And so that's gonna be called the costal angle. Just a term, right? Because we have essentially a relatively flat articulations right there in the posterior portion. And we need to wrap the rib cage around, wrap the ribs around the organs. And so to help protect the rest of our organs. And so that's going to be the costal angle where we make that sharp bend, where that bend starts to happen. And then if we move anteriorly, we can see a cross section of something straight right in the center of your chest. So, boy, Kimmy, you want to take a guess at what bone this is right here? Yep, that's your sternum. And we talked a lot about costal. It's the name that we use. It's probably some Greek or Latin, something or the other. I particularly don't care. But the cartilage that helps your ribs articulate with your sternum, right there. So if a lot of things are named costal, Miss Yee, you want to take a stab at what that cartilage might be called? There we go, costal cartilage. Costal cartilage, all right? So those are kind of the big structures on the ribs. What I do want you to know is, and be able to know which end of the rib articulates where. So this should be fairly obvious just from looking at these images. You should be able to tell this side articulates with the vertebrae, the other side articulates with the costal cartilage and the sternum. And try and be able to orient yourself on which structures are anterior, posterior. Yeah, any questions on the ribs? Yeah, so it's articulating, when we go back up here, is the head of the rib articulating with the superior articular facet. It does, costal facet. Say that, wait. Does the head of the rib articulate with the superior costal facet? Yes. So it's both, right? So you can see the head of the rib where it articulates. It's articulating kind of right in the middle of the disc, of that intervertebral disc. And so when we put the when we put everything together, you can see that the head articulates not only with the superior articular facet of the lower vertebrae, but also the inferior articular facet with the more superior vertebrae. Good. Any other questions on ribs, thoracic vertebrae, cervical vertebrae? All right. The rest of the time today, we'll do lab. Make sure you get your hands on some thoracic vertebrae and some ribs.